To be back here in India and back here in Bangalore. It's always unbelievable to come back and see the energy and the excitement, especially at a time like this. You know, we're perhaps entering this next phase where we're going to go from talking about AI and admiring some of the new capabilities, whether they're in infrastructure or in models, to doing things with AI that are bold and big. And that's, to me, what's really in the air when I come here and I see people excited about what's happening and what you're doing. So I want to spend, the next half hour or so just giving you at least what I see out there as the possibilities and what we at Microsoft are focused on in terms of building platforms. Because at some level, to me, Microsoft has always been fundamentally about two things. We're a platform company and we're a partner company. And even in the age of AI, that's what's going to be true. But whenever you talk about these platforms and platform shifts, I think I lost my, okay. You always need to be grounded in what's the foundational force that's driving the platform shift. In fact, when I look back even my 35 years in tech, it's been about one fundamental force, which has been Moore's Law. I always recount, Bill used to bring a bunch of us together every year and he would just literally put the Moore's Law and then what's happening with memory and say, go fill it with software. That was just the single instruction to the entire company. And it's very true even today, right? When you think about the scaling laws that are powering AI and pre-training in particular, it's really Moore's Law at work again. And it started in 2010 with DNNs and then obviously the GPUs. They inflected again perhaps with transformers just because of the efficiency of data parallelism with transformers. And what was happening perhaps of doubling of capacity every 18 months started to double every 6 months. That's really what the scaling laws were. And by the way, there's all this debate, what's happening with scaling laws for pre-training, will they continue, have we hit the wall? We fundamentally believe the scaling laws are absolutely still great and will work and continue to work, but they do become harder, right? As the sizes of data become higher, the parameter counts become higher, the systems problems are bigger. So these synchronous data parallel workloads are new workloads, and so therefore that'll continue. But the more interesting thing that you are now starting to see is another scaling law with the inference time or test time compute scaling law, right? I mean, at some level, pre-training had that sampling step. This is sort of always about using that sampling step more efficiently. I think I've lost the mic. Just give me a hand mic. Just give it to me. No problem. So it's about being able to scale with even inference time that I think is going to really take this to the next level. So we're very, very excited about it. I mean, O1 and Think Hard, like to me, Copilot Think Harder has become the thing that I go to all the time. And that shows not just for sampling for additional pre-training, but to be able to use it during inference time to think harder and get you better results. So I think that these are capabilities that are just going to increase ultimately three things. One is this multimodal capability that we now have as the interface to all software, right? I recently set up, I guess there's this, I don't know what they call it, the action button, I think, on the iPhone. It's now set up to Copilot for me, and now I can sort of confidently speak in Hyderabadi Urdu to it, and it's beautiful. It understands me. It's like speaking to my high school buddies. And the fundamental idea that you can now have that familiar, simple interface with all of computing, I think is going to change every software category. Then you couple it with these planning and reasoning capabilities, right? So whenever you go to GitHub Copilot Workspace, right, that thing is invoking that ability to think about planning and executing that plan as a multi-step process, right? It's the beginnings of what is truly agentic behavior. And then the other side of it is to be able to stitch these things that are outside the system or outside of the model. Memory, context, tools use, and entitlements.
So in fact, if anything, in the next 12 months, every developer is going to be really focused on how do I take my model and make it aware of the tools it can use, just beyond even function calling. How can I make sure it has the right understanding of its entitlements? How do I make sure it has memory and long-term memory? And that, to me, I think is what's going to truly help us create this rich tapestry of agents, right? When we think about agents, you stitch the multimodal capability, planning and reasoning, and memory and tools used in particular, plus entitlements. You can start building personal agents, team agents, or enterprise-wide and cross-enterprise agents. So that agentic world is what we are looking forward to sort of all building. Of course, at Microsoft, for us, it's never, quite frankly, about any of these technologies on their own. It's a means to the end, which is about empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. That's what, that sense of empowerment that this platform can provide, I think, is going to be the next level, and that's what we're really, really focused on. And to that end, we're building 3 platforms: Copilot, Copilot and AI Stack, as well as Copilot devices. And so what I want to do is just kind of give you the broad contours of what these 3 platforms all entail. The best way to conceptualize Copilot is it's the UI for AI. So one of the ways you think about, even in a very rich agentic world, remember, the AI will need to interface with us. That needs a UI layer. And that's why I think this organizing layer of Copilot becomes even more important in a world where there are many, many agents doing autonomous work. I think that's the best way to think about it. Now, the approach we have taken is to build in the Copilot into the existing workflow. One of the best examples I've seen, quite frankly, is one of the high-stakes things of knowledge work, right? So here, there's a doctor, she's getting ready for a tumor board meeting, right? Think about a tumor board meeting. It's a high-stakes meeting. That means you would have had to read all of the reports, know exactly how much time to spend on each one. So that means the creation of the agenda is a reasoning task. So it creates an agenda which knows which one is the more complicated case that needs more time. Then you go into a Teams meeting. So all these doctors are now having a conversation on all the cases. They're able to focus on the case as opposed to taking notes, because there's an AI that's taking detailed notes on all of it. Then at the end of it, she's a teaching doctor, right? So she wants to be able to take what happened in the tumor board, go to class. And so that means she's able to take the notes, put it into Word, from Word to PowerPoint, go to the class. That simple workflow, right, that doctors everywhere are doing, that has impact on lives, can be enabled with AI just being built into the workflow. So that's just a good example of sort of how to think about AI being infused into current workflow. Now let's take it to the next step. Now with Pages and Chat, with web and work scope, I think it's sort of completely about thinking of new types of workflows. Right? Fundamentally, I'm now able to access information, whether it's web information or it's information inside of my Microsoft 365 graph, right? One query at a time, I can go get back all the data. I can then promote that data into this interactive AI-first canvas called Pages. And once I have it in Pages, I can then use Copilot inline in Pages to keep modifying it. And I sort of use this as a metaphor where I'm thinking with AI and I'm working with my colleagues, right? So think about that. Like, that's the new workflow where I think with AI, I promote things into Pages, I invite others, I collaborate with others, and by the way, AI is present even on that canvas. So Chat plus Pages is going to become this new AI hub for, just like how Word, Excel, PowerPoint back in the day changed how I worked, now Chat plus Pages will be a new module that effectively enhances how you work with AI. Now, we're not obviously stopping there. The next thing that we are thinking about is, extensibility. So how do you extend AI going forward? It starts